I'm Al McFarland. Welcome to the conversation with Al McFarland. I'm glad to be here and glad to have you along as well. Today is Wednesday, February 11th, 2026. Shout out birthdays to twin daughters, Chrissy and Shelly. Happy birthday to you and to all the people who have February birthdays. One more year around the sun. What a wonderful thing. Well, today we want to talk about just ongoing conversation about what's happening in community. I'll be joined by co-host today, James Trice. He's with the Public Policy Project, and we'll be chopping it up on issues local, national, international, just our take on what things are going on and what they mean. We want to get you involved in the conversation as well. This is simply about us connecting, us being in community, us being in conversation. So if you're checking us out on either YouTube for Black Press USA or YouTube for Insight News, our channel, if you're on LinkedIn or Facebook or Twitter, we'd love to have you join the conversation. Drop a note in the comment section telling us where you are. Shout out your community, your project, your work. If you want to be on the program, we want you on the program with us. We'll put a QR code in the screen here, and you can click on, and we'll invite you into the conversation. I want to begin the conversation, though, with a friend and colleague, a leader in community, Brother Carl O. Benson. Let me bring him in and also bring in Brother James Trice. Carl, how you doing, man? Good to see you. Brother Trice, good to see you. How are you both doing?
Come on, man.
Yeah, I don't have your sound, Carl, so let's check your sound. You're muted at the moment. Yeah. I hear you now. I think I do anyway. I do. Perfectly. And James Trice, how you doing, man?
I'm well, brother. How are you?
I'm doing good. We got good sound, so it's good to see the three of us together here.
How you doing, Carl?
I'm doing well. Good to see you, sir.
Good.
Carl, I explained to you before the show that Brother Trice is going to be hanging out with me for the next several weeks, just talking about public policy. And we're going to be sort of engaging people locally, nationally, internationally on topics of the day. And the general feeling is public policy. How do we have conversations in our community among us about what public policy is and what role we play in effecting public policy that serves the interest of our community? And we believe that that means serves community at large, serves country, serves humanity. And in that spirit, we're reaching out to everybody who's got a point of view, an attitude, an axe to grind, or something to celebrate. Come on, let's have this conversation. That's what we need to do. Brother Carl, you and I have talked over a long period of time about your passion about economic development and business development. And among other things, right now you're leading initiatives with 100 Black men and others to promote awareness, consciousness, and opportunity. I'm going to turn the mic over to you to have you introduce yourself and tell people what you're passionate about right now and why.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for the time. Thank you for making the space. I mean, right now, as it's been for years for me, I'm really passionate about supporting Black men, starting young, starting at the little guys all the way up to the folks that are kind of at retirement age or whatever that looks like. And primarily for me, it's really trying to find ways to bring Black men together. Part of what we do at the 100 Black Men Twin Cities through not only our mentorship programs and some of the academies that we do is we support Black men at all stages of their life. So we start with the little guys, sixth graders, fifth graders, and then really sort of create opportunities for them, both from a mentorship and a role modeling standpoint. But then as they move through a kind of a pathway of life, there's, how do you look for that first job? How do you tie a tie? All those type of things are important. But I think ultimately what we really try to do and what I try to do from a passion project is sort of look at how does collective economics show back up? How do we sort of work together as Black men, which is sometimes one of those challenges, right? Everybody wants to be kind of the lead horse, I guess, in the race. But I think for me, it's really looking at how do I sort of create opportunities and convene brothers together to sort of do something collectively and sort of make that economic impact for the community that we live in.
Take a minute and give us 100 Black Men 101. What's the basic story
Sure.
for those who might not
Yeah.
be familiar with the grand vision, and
Yeah.
and then you can lead into how the Minnesota chapter formation took
Yeah.
place.
Yeah. So the mission obviously is positively impact development and outcomes of youth, and sort of improve their quality of life. I think that in the Minneapolis or Twin Cities chapter started back in 2020. During the pandemic, it was a group of guys came together and said, let's bring this chapter that's out of Atlanta, but sort of bring a local chapter here to support that vision, the vision of sort of seeking and being that beacon of light, I guess, in leadership for using our influence and using our resources, I guess, if you will, to sort of move Black men forward. But our current president, and I work really closely together, sort of looking at ways to do that. I think ultimately, when we sort of talk about the 100 Black Men Twin Cities, we're really looking at it from the standpoint of how do we sort of create together the vision of what we want to see. We're not going to beg you for it. We're not going to make you do anything for it. We're going to do it ourselves. And I think part of it, obviously, and the excitement behind it is exactly that. It's really trying to figure out ways to sort of take the collective efforts, energies, influence, and power of Black men and elevate it and sort of role model that for the young guys we work with.
Is this new work or a new iteration of something that's been going on forever in the Black community? How do you see it? How do you define it?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think that, from the 100 Black Men, we were founded 6 years ago. But I mean, when you look at the overall landscape, there's young men and Black men doing all types of great work. I think the challenge is we all do it in silos for the most part. And I think that when I moved to Minneapolis 20 years ago. I had a corporate life. I worked for Nike and the Jordan brand out of Chicago for many years. And then when I decided I wanted to come back and work in the nonprofit space, I moved back to Minneapolis where most of my family lives. And I realized that it wasn't much different here than it was in Chicago. It's a lot of folks move independently. They don't necessarily work together unless there's a reason to, I guess. And I think that for me, the reason is being supportive of other Black men. I think that the reality is that many of us, many of us in the Black community, oftentimes we may or may not be able to sort of buy land by ourselves. We may not be able to buy a development by ourselves. But if we collectively put our resources together, what would it look like? What would it look like to buy a lot of land similar to what you see in other areas? And just build your own homes, sell to Black folks, use that, keep those Black dollars in that Black community. What does that look like for having Black men as head of households and doing the things that we know is possible in 2026? Because this is different. It's a different world out there and everything's kind of faster, instant gratification, clearly. But I think really where I'm at, I turned 50. Well, I'm 53 years old now, but I turned 50 and realized that I'm not getting any younger, right? I got to start doing the things that I want to see, I guess. So I got to do it myself or whatever it looks like. And I try to find folks who want to get down with me wherever that is.
What's your background? Interesting. You said you have family here. Where are you from? Where's your home?
Yeah, so I was actually born in Columbus, Ohio. I from a military family. So I actually grew up on an air base. You probably never heard of it. In the middle of nowhere, Minot, North Dakota, furthest side.
I know Minot, North Dakota.
Okay. Well, there very few people do, but that's I grew up there and surrounded really. Most of my friends came and went. Obviously, Air Force families. You see them for a while, and then obviously 2 years later they're gone. I went to college in North Dakota State.
How long was your family stationed in Minot?
25 years.
That's kind of lucky because most military families travel a lot.
Yeah, so, well, up until that time we did. My dad fell in love with fishing and hunting, and so once he retired, he stayed there. So we stayed. He taught me how to fish, taught me how to hunt, all those type of things, and he just loved it there. And after high school, went to college, went to North Dakota State University in Fargo. Did that for quite a while, then moved to Minneapolis as a 20-something-year-old and landed in this space where I started working for Nike out of Foot Locker. And then I moved to the corporate side of it, and I moved to the corporate side and moved to Chicago. And then met my wife and then moved back here. I was there for about 10 years, met my wife, brought her back because she was ready to leave West Side Chicago. So brought her back to Minneapolis, and my whole family lives here now. My sisters, brother, both my sisters and my mother out in Burnsville, my brother's in Plymouth. So we're all together now, and it's kind of a nice opportunity to be together from a family standpoint because we've been spread out for so many years. But then, yeah, it's just the passion for me right now is really how we do the work. What does it look like in all of Minneapolis, greater Twin Cities, St. Paul, to sort of do the work together? And that's what excites me about some of the projects that we're working on now.
And so I get a sense that the work you're doing with 100 Black Men sort of dovetails and is fueled by your family history and this sort of instruction of how to be an effective adult and an effective human being that really is genetic, it sounds to me. Am I on the right track? How
Well,
does your family was and is pour into you and inform your direction?
Right. That's fair. That's a fair question. I think the reality for me is like I never knew what it was like to have a single parent family, right? So as I got older, I realized a lot of Black men that I knew maybe grew up with mom only. I always had my mom and dad around. I mean, I wouldn't say we grew up in a white picket fence and 2 dogs and brothers and sisters, but it was just it was just us. We sort of rolled together, moved together, and we learned together. And I think that there was a point in my life where it was my dad went to work and my mom stayed with us and we took us to school and all those type of things. We came home, it was a hot meal. I mean, it was almost as close as you could get to being like the perfect idea of what family looked like and what I thought it looked like. And so a lot of the founding principles, were put in discipline and responsibility and accountability. All those things started early. I thought I was just doing what my mom and dad told me to do, and later found out that was what accountability is, or responsibility was, right? So I think a lot of those things is when I moved to Chicago and other places, even Minneapolis to some degree, I realized that a lot of my friends maybe didn't have that same setup. It wasn't necessarily, there's good friends that did and good friends that did not. But I think that the idea behind it was like, oh, okay, how do I sort of bring that influence to them? But then also, from a space of like everybody's life is different. And mine is just one that was kind of like, I appreciate the fact that, I grew up in a time where spankings were still the thing. And, you do the wrong thing, say the wrong thing, and you're corrected quickly and you don't do it again.
So do you spank your children?
I did not, but my son graduated from college, but he's 23 years old. My daughter just graduated; she's 21. But the beauty of it, quite honestly, is I didn't need to. And I say that from the standpoint of I sort of set the example with my daughter was the youngest, and I told my son, don't hit girls. Right. So who would I be to spank my daughter? Right. Doesn't make any sense because you're setting the wrong example there. So we do a lot of the discipline from the standpoint of talking through things when I was younger, which is, I believe, I'd like to believe I'm a storyteller. I like to believe I'm a writer to some degree. I like to believe that I can sort of use words in a way that sort of inspire others. And I think a lot of that came from the fact that I didn't discipline or didn't necessarily see the need to, because I was able to talk through a lot of things. And that could very well be a sense that I was like, I grew up, growing up in the 80s and 90s is different than growing up in the 2000s. And I think that young people these days, they need a little something different. So spanking was never something that made a lot of sense to me and my family, but I'm not going to lie to you. I wouldn't say that a lot of kids don't need it. It's just a matter of that particular family.
That you don't do it. That's cool. And so with 100 Black Men, what should the community know and what should the community be prepared to do to support the work and the vision? What's on the agenda near term that people can plug into and learn about?
Yeah, I mean, the most exciting thing we have going on right now, for Black Men right now, we're doing the Solidarity Breakfast. We're doing that this month, the 27th, Friday the 27th of this month out at North Hennepin Community College. We have a partnership out there with them. They do a great work. And one of our partners, First Independence Bank, is helping us and supporting in that breakfast. And the reality is it's a lot of networking, a lot of opportunity for brothers to come together from all different walks of life. So it's not necessarily just like a bunch of business folks. You'll get the business folks, you'll get some young college students, we'll get some high school scholars who are sort of supporting us and sort of volunteering. But then you'll also get the regular business or the regular, the plumbers and the the guys doing HVAC, and the guys that are entrepreneurs and restaurant owners, all coming together just to sort of create not only a sense of fellowship and belonging, but also sort of be in a space together where, from 8 to 10 a.m. in the morning, we're just going to hang out. We're going to talk a little bit. We're going to have some conversations, make connections, and sort of plot and plan to sort of figure out what we can do together moving into the future. And I think that is something that, I've always wanted to do it. I've always, even the 100 Black Men Twin Cities, we currently don't have 100 Black men registered, right? We don't have 100 members. And that's something for me. It's like, well, but why don't we? And truthfully, we all have different things going on. Like there's, whether you're in a different groups, whether it's a fraternity or you're in the 100 Black Men, or you're in a business group or a networking group, or whatever that looks like, you're just always busy. And I think that really the way I look at it anyway is that any Black man living in the Twin Cities should be part of the 100 Black Men Twin Cities. I mean, I think because what we try to be is a convener of sorts. We're trying to be that center hub, I guess, if you will, to sort of create opportunities and resources for others, whether that's financial or educational or mentorship or role modeling. We really want to make sure that we're in that space right now where all Black men realize there's a safe space to sort of not only be yourself, but sort of create other opportunities.
Do me a favor and drop your contact information in the chat, and people that are listening or watching can connect with you either by phone or by email or by your website, however you want to do it, so that they can connect and support what you're doing. And Brother Carl, thank you for hanging out with me and for this. We're going to be doing more stuff down the road. I know that. Count on Insight News and McFarland Media platforms to elevate and support and push the mission forward. We think it's important, and we know it's in good hands, in your hands.
You bet. I appreciate you.
All right, then. Hang out as long as you want. Drop that note in the comment. Let me bring in Brother James Trice. Brother James, how you doing, man? Good to see you.
I'm wonderful, man. Thank you for asking. Thank you for inviting me to be on the show and be with you, Al. It's always good hanging out with you.
Well, two things. Let's reflect on what Brother Carl said, first of all, as he was sharing. What are your thoughts? What do you think about how that supports our mutual mission of building community and building effective citizenship? What do you think?
I think it's wonderful. Let me ask a question, Carl. You a part of 100 Black Men of America? Are you a chapter of that?
Exactly. Chapter of that, yes. Yep. Mm-hmm.
And then are you located in St. Paul? Is it...
Yeah, so we currently, we all work independently, so we're remotely. We do events at different places around the city. We meet up at different places around the city. Most of our chapter meetings are via Zoom, but we don't have an office. We don't have an office here in town. We're it's kind of funny you say that. We're looking to collectively find a spot that we can work with other Black men with their businesses in the same area.
Yeah, I was just looking at the your website online. It said 1401 Larkinshire Court or whatever it is. And then the president, Kentale Morris Jr.
Kentale Morris was our immediate past president.
Okay,
we just had elections. So Kefra Ku is now so he was the vice president before. He's now president right now.
Right. So first of all, let me just say I commend you on doing this work, man. I think it's vitally important. I do believe though that we are not meant to do life alone. Somebody said this. A minister said that we cannot be our best self by ourselves. And if you do something by yourself, it is not your best self. And I thank you for doing what you're doing, because I think it's vitally important, because none of us are meant to do life alone, right? We're interdependent on each other. And I have a group, it's called the 5C. It's a group of Black men, Christian Black men coming together. And it's under 5C is the first letter in the 5 principles of our connection. And it's called, the 5 C's of communication, connection, commitment, celebration, crisis and celebration. And it's a group of Black men that's come together, realizing that we need to really just stand together and work with each other and support each other. In times we need to commit to each other. Really the program is that, 12 weeks, we commit to supporting each other, contacting each other, staying in touch with each other. So what we do is every week we either text each other, call each other, communicate with each other every single week. Every other week we get together in person to hang out, do something together, either do a community event together or do something together, pray with each other on a regular basis, stand with each other, support each other in times of crisis, also in times of celebration. And that's what we do as a group of Black men, and we believe that's vitally important. So I want to say I really would like our groups to connect. So you're saying you don't actually have 100 Black men. I would like to add. I would like to increase your numbers so we can reach that 100 Black men, because I think what's important is that what you're doing is vitally important. So we can connect in some way, shape, or form, and I can bring some of the men that I work with, and we can join the 100 Black men. We would love to be a part of the group. Is there a cost to be a member of the group?
So there's two different levels we look at. So there's an ambassador level, which would be the folks that are kind of can't necessarily commit to the monthly meetings and some of the things that we do as it relates to programming committees and some of the fundraising committees and all those type of things. So it's $100 ambassador level. And then we have the $250 full membership level, which gives you all the meetings, all the access to being a member, of access to the national chapters and all the stuff that we do there. Obviously, you get invitations to some of the events we do throughout the country, and of course, you'll be looped into all the events that we do from a programming standpoint in the city. Whether that's our junior academy, whether that's the breakfast that we're about to do. We do some stuff in the summertime too. A couple years ago, we had a sneaker ball. So there's a lot of opportunity there as member. But there's two different levels. There's a $100 level, and then there's a $250 full access level.
Leave your information with Brother Al, and I get it from you. And let's connect. I really want to give you a call. You and I sit down and talk about it, and how we can make that happen. Let me share with you one last thing. The foundation of our work, it's based in Ecclesiastes chapter 4, starting in verse 9 and 10, and that scripture verse says, "Two are better than one, for if one, and they have a good reward for their labor. If one falls, he has the other to lift him up." It goes on to say that, "But woe to him who's alone, for when he falls, he has no one to lift him up." And that's our foundation, is that we believe that we need to support each other. We're not meant to do life alone. There's a scripture also in Genesis chapter 2, verse 18. God said it's not good for man to be alone. And think about this for a second. You read that whole verse, or you read the first two scriptures in front of it. God created 7 things, and he said, that's good. When he created heaven and the earth and the animals and all that, and each time he created each thing, he said it was good. It was good. And then when he created man, he said it's not good for man to be alone. And it's significant, because that's the first time that God said something wasn't good, was man was alone, right? So really, what that means to me, what that suggests to me, that it's critically important for us to come together, particularly Black men. And I like that we have a focus, because mine is focused on Black men too. For various reasons we could get into. I don't have time on this program, but you understand it's critically important for we as Black men to come together, particularly at this political climate that we live in right now, and what's going on with Black and brown men and women around the country with this present administration. So thank you, brother. And I really would love for you and I to sit down and talk.
Absolutely. We'll make it happen. Absolutely. Excited.
Thank you for doing what you do, brother.
Yeah. Right on.
And Carl, thank you. Hang out as long as you want, man. We're going to chop up stuff here, and I'm throwing some stuff out for Brother James to react to and respond to. And we want people who are listening to do the same. So if you're checking us out on LinkedIn or Twitter or YouTube, got a question or a comment, drop it in the chat. If you want to join the show, we want you on the show. It's about us sharing, raising our voices and sharing. James, first of all, what's top of mind with you in the public policy space right now? What things are grabbing your attention that you're working on that you want to share with our viewers and listeners?
Well, a few things. One is really
trying. You do, James, let's have you take 30 seconds and do the elevator statement on the public policy project, so that people know the foundation of your comments.
Right. Well, thank you so much, Al. So first of all, Public Policy Project, we started off as a civic engagement, public policy leadership company that helps citizens really understand how public policy impacts their work, or how public policy impacts them, and really how to be more civically engaged, be more civically active, and more civically astute, understanding who represents you and how to engage those who represent you, how to engage more in the public policy, and how to understand how public policy impacts your life, and how critically important it is for you not only to vote, but also to get involved with understanding who represents you and why. understanding and knowing that if you're going out and voting, you need to understand who represents you and why. The foundation of what we do at Public Policy Project is rooted and grounded in the fact that people have far more power than they realize. The issue is they just don't realize how to use their power. I think it was Toni Morrison who said, the biggest mistake we make about power is to believe we don't have any. That's the biggest mistake but we do have power, right? And so really we've trained thousands of individuals in understanding public policy, how to engage civically, how to make their voice heard, how to give the elevator speech, how to write letters to the to your elected officials, how to form coalitions, really message framing, how to get your message heard, and how to really move legislation really at the state level, at the local level, and then even at the federal level. And then we also engage in really community dialogues around critical issues that concern community. So one example is we really led ourselves along with NAIL partners, led the engagement around the development of George Floyd Square after the murder of George Floyd. We led the community engagement work around that, which created a plan for how to revitalize the area where George Floyd was murdered, and helping communities really come together, talk about what it is they want, as far as lighting, the right of way, traffic, businesses, and so forth. So we led in those discussions. So we really consider ourselves, astute in really community engagement and how to bring people together, and really to make their voice heard around particular issues. Some of the things that we're really concerned about now really is these ICE agents and what's happening with this present political climate. How to help people make sense of this. How to help people understand that what's happening now really is not new. This is historical. This is America, right? This is what America is founded on. It's the subjugation, segregation, oppression, of marginalization of Black and brown communities. This is what it's founded on. You see a lot of these ICE agents, they're out here. And what's happening is, what we see is that they are targeting Black and brown immigrants, and we don't see anything. I haven't seen. Maybe somebody can tell me. Are they rounding up European immigrants from from European nations? You know what I'm saying, like Germany or Switzerland or whatever, right? And are they targeting those particular immigrants? I don't see it, but I know that what's visible is that. So helping our people really understand really understand that, and then understanding why it's critically important for them to really vote in this midterm election. Let me go back and say, and I want people to really understand this, that if Keith Ellison wasn't elected to be Attorney General, I doubt very seriously if Derek Chauvin, the police officer who murdered George Floyd, would have been even indicted for the crime. Because I've heard that county attorney who was supposed to really do the prosecution or even indictment of Derek Chauvin really state that he didn't see a reason to indict. So Keith Ellison had to, there's many political maneuvers that had to happen, but had to step in. But if he wasn't elected as Attorney General, I would surmise, I would bet my last dollar that Derek Chauvin would still be on the force, because he had 17 complaints against him prior to him murdering George Floyd, and he was never indicted by the county attorneys that existed at that time. And so because Keith Ellison stepped up to be Attorney General, the top cop basically in the state, that was possible. And I could give many, many examples of us really understanding how legislation, how important it is for us to get involved with voting. Let me be clear with you. Just because we vote for someone don't mean that they're perfect. Doesn't mean they have no flaws. And doesn't mean we're not going to have to hold them accountable. We may not agree with everything that they stand for, but we have to be in a position where we vote for individuals who will do the least harm. I think we as the Black electorate are in a position where we have to vote for the person who's going to do the least harm. Right. And so understanding that, but getting really politically astute. Don't resign yourself. So I'm not going to vote again because I don't like what Keith did here. I don't like, and people really sometimes don't understand the inner workings of that. As a registered lobbyist, I've seen DFL candidates try to move legislation that would be detrimental for Black communities. And I've seen Republican legislators move or try to move legislation that are beneficial for Black communities. So what we do at the Public Policy Project, we're nonpartisan. We don't tell people how to vote. We don't tell them to vote for Republican or Green or Independent or Democrats or DFL or whatever. We said, look at the candidates, study what they believe, understand what their position is on issues, and vote for the candidate that best represents what it is you want to see. But make your voice heard. And even when you vote for those individuals, hold those individuals accountable. Go to the legislature, make phone calls to them, write letters, say, this is what I want you to do. It's critically important for that. So right now, we are focused on making sure that people really be civically engaged, particularly with this upcoming midterm election, because we think it's going to be very, very critical. And lastly, I want to say this. It says something that more than 77 million people voted for a 43-time convicted felon. I mean, think about it. You sit with that for a second. More than 77 million people voted for a person who was tried and convicted and found guilty of 43 counts. 43. Now, let Barack Obama had even been, we don't need to say if Barack Obama was even charged with a misdemeanor where he would have landed in our political history. Probably never would have got elected. But you got a man who's convicted, and that's just the 43 convictions. There's other things, right? We're talking about two-time. He was twice impeached.
Mm-hmm.
Come on, man. It says something about where we at in this country, where people choose to vote for a man who's tried, convicted, found guilty of 43 felonies.
Let's jump in right there. So, what does it say, James Trice, about the 77 million? What does it say about the 300 million of us in this country when you have that large a group seeing its future in the rhetoric and the posturing of the current Republican Party, hijacked, I believe, by the MAGA right, by the, what did they call it before it became MAGA right? It was called the Tea Party, right?
Tea Party, yes,
Tea
right.
Party. But I remember being at some events over in North Minneapolis, one where Keith was speaking, might have been in North Commons, and it was a community, and this might have been before he was Attorney General. He might have been a state representative at the time, or U.S. representative. That's where he was. And all of a sudden, these, kind of ragtag looking, stringy people showed up that were classic J6ers. This is way before J6, though. Right. They fit the bill of what I come to understand as a J6er. That's a shorthand, probably unfair categorization, but it's useful for the moment. And they were trying to rout the community and Keith and talk about, the Tea Party platform issues of representation. But, we just looked at them and said, but what we shouldn't have, because they were deadly serious, and their seriousness has led them to where they've coalesced a voting bloc of 77 million people that succeeded in installing the current regime in Washington, D.C. So where are we now? And this gets you back to the second item, the upcoming midterms. How critically important is it for us to be present, to be knowledgeable, and to vote our interest and to know what our interests are?
Right. So let me answer by saying, for there to be more than 77 million people to vote for him, that suggests to me that these individuals, they support his ideology. They support what he's moving, what he's doing, that they're with it, right? To ignore the 43 convictions, most of it child or even, I would say, sexual misconduct or sexual offenses that they voted for. So what it says to me is that the individuals who voted for him support this regime, support what he stands for, support this platform. Again, I want to say that he is he's an avatar, right? So if he wasn't there, they would still hold these same beliefs. He just was somebody who's carrying their water to represent them, a manifestation of what they are and what they've always been. I would submit to you that they never stopped fighting the Civil War. That they continued. They want to continue to bring us back to a place in America where they were allowed to subjugate Black and brown bodies, where they're allowed to oppress us, where they fought the Civil War because they wanted to maintain slavery. They wanted to maintain subjugating Black and brown bodies. And so I would say those individuals hold those same beliefs. They're not far gone. So this is not an anomaly. This is who America is. So I would say that what it says to me is that they support this regime and they support their position. The second question I think that you ask is how important it is for us to understand this. Let me go back and say this. A lot of people, I saw the visceral response to this Bad Bunny halftime show. And it was, I don't know if it was surprising to me or it was revealing. I think it was revealing to me, right? Where people just said, I dare them have a show that's all Spanish, and we couldn't understand what was going on. Well, how many Super Bowl shows have there been in since the Super Bowl began? How many have there been? I don't know how many there have been, but there's never been a show where it's all, not that I know of, where it's all Spanish speaking. But they lost their mind. Mm-hmm. They literally said this was un-American, when Puerto Rico is American. Mm-hmm. Right? That says something, and all of these things reveal who they are. And so I want to say that. What's critically important is this: the president of the United States, this regime, has a hold on this government. He has their ideology has a hold of all three branches of government: the legislative, the executive, and judicial branches of government. He can move whatever, or they can move whatever they want to move. But we can take back hold of this Congress, which will put some serious constraints on what he does. He has the trifecta right now, but if we flip it during the midterm, then he won't be able to do some of the things he's doing. They won't be able to carry out some of the things that they're carrying out. We can put some serious holds on him. Matter of fact, we can move to impeach him again if we have the Congress in place that can do that. We can move to file for articles of impeachment and really have it go through. We can stop some of his executive, or some of the moves that he's trying to make, some of the executive orders. We can't stop all of these executive orders, but we could be able to curtail some of the moves he's making, like getting these ICE officers off the street and all of these things that they're doing. So it's really critically important for us to understand what pieces of legislation he's moving. Also, to understand this, that a lot of the stuff, like with the depictions of the Obamas with their faces on apes, right? Mm-hmm. That was just a distraction, right? Mm-hmm. We need to understand that he's playing distractions. So while he's moving things behind the scenes, he's throwing these things out here to get our attention away from what he's trying to do, or what they're trying to do. I want to take it off of him and put it on them, because he can't do it without the them, right? Because if Congress was there to hold him accountable, if the judicial branch was there, he wouldn't be able to do what he's doing. He's able to do what he's doing because he has a trifecta, and he has a group of individuals, a machine, a regime around him, and we need to be able to really put some brakes on what he's trying to do. I don't think, though, let me just say this, I don't think this ideology, this false ideology of whiteness, of white supremacy that permeates America, that's woven in the fabric of America, would ever be curtailed without bloodshed. It's got to be honest with you. We need white people to dismantle the system that they set up. It's not on us as Black people who are the oppressed, the marginalized, the downtrodden, right? Those who've been subjected to this tyranny. It's not on us to dismantle the system. It's on white people who help set up the system, and white people who benefit from the system, who may not agree, but they benefit from it. Not enough white Republicans who say they don't agree with him are standing up speaking against him, which says your silence is complicity. Your silence says that you support what's happening. If you're not speaking up loud enough against this, you support it. right?
So, James, but when you say bloodshed, so the first thing that jumps into Al McFarland's mind, and I know I'm wrong, but I want to say it because I want it to be said, is there a scenario where we African Americans are in an armed conflict with anybody in this country? I hope not. I don't think so. I don't see that as a motivating factor. I
Right.
do see, however, the need for every citizen to be in a situation to protect himself or herself. So I support the Second Amendment and the ownership of guns, and I support that in our community as well as in other communities. I do not see a scenario where our people present a physical threat of force to the society at large, even when our demands are clear, honest, reasonable. I do see, on the other hand, the continued use of moral suasion, moral force, argument, discussion, debate, and then maneuvering in a way that's tactical and strategic to exercise the levers of power at neighborhood levels, at park board and city council and taxation board levels, at city halls, townships, wherever we have the numbers, to have our numbers be at the forefront of local power distribution, utilization, and so that our voices are in the levers of the overall enterprise more effectively than they have been. And we've done marvelously because we have a number of Black electeds in the country. We need to make sure we don't lose it, because in history, that was the case during Reconstruction, but it was wiped out in a fell swoop by the Klan, right? So,
Yep.
So when you say you fear violence, I'm presuming that you mean white people who see things differently, demanding of themselves and others clarity, consistency, and the commitment to defend the principle of freedom for every human being. And that commitment does not exist right now, as I see
Right.
it. Am I on track with my?
Oh no, you and I are on the same page. I agree with you 100%. That's what I mean by bloodshed. And God forbid, I just believe that this is what has to happen. There has to be more Renee Goods. There has to be more Alex Preddies. There has to be more Goodman and Schwerner and Goodmans, right?
Mhm.
There has to be more white folks who put themselves on the line to stand for the values that this country says it upholds, the values that it said it espouses, as opposed to what they really do. And to say, no, you're not doing what you say you do. There has to be more white people who put themselves, not just their lives on the line, but their social capital on the line, their political capital on the line. There was a white man who was running for mayor a few years ago, and him and I got into a dialogue, and he asked me, he said, "Do you feel safe?" And I said, well, no. He said, well, why don't you feel safe? I said, I feel police. I said, that's just real. I said, the biggest fear that I have as a Black man is when I'm driving down the street and I see those sirens or those lights behind me, my heart skips a beat. I start, because I don't know what they're going to do. Now, I'm going to follow the law. What they tell me to do, put my hands on the wheel. I'm going to not make a move until they tell me to make a move, whatever. I'm going to do that. That still does not guarantee that I will not be killed by law enforcement. And I told him that. And he said, what is the reason for this? I said, this false ideology of white supremacy, this white psychopathy that exists in America, that's woven in the fabric of America. I said, this ideology that they can impose their will on me and kill me with impunity. That's what I'm afraid of. And he said, how do we fix it? I said, well, let me ask you a question. And this is the question I asked this white man who's running for mayor. And I can't remember his name. And I said, give you an example. I said, you stand there, you say you agree with us. You say you stand with us, you're our ally. I said, but let me ask you this. I said, just hypothetically, every Thanksgiving, you said you take your kids to go see your mother, their grandmother. They excited to see their grandmother. And he said, yes. I said, I said, just for instance, just think for a second. If your mother always uses the N-word when you all come together, she always talking down about Black people, always have these racist thoughts and ideas, and verbalizes these things about Black people. I said, if you stand with us, your role is to tell your mother, Mom, you have to stop saying this, because if you don't, I'm not going to let you see the children next Thanksgiving. We will stop visiting you for Thanksgiving. And this man, he turned red. He stopped. He said, that's what it's going to take. I said, in order for this to stop, you all have to put your reputations in your lives. So when I say it's going to take that, it's going to take literal bloodshed. It's going to take more Renee Goods, more Alex Preddies to stand in, more Goodman and Cheney. I mean, more Goodmans and Schwerners to stand in and say, we're not going to allow you to continue to do this, right? So that's what I mean. But I don't, and I do believe, let me just add this. I do believe in self-defense. I believe that we have to defend ourselves. If we are approached with a tyrannical situation in which we're set upon and violence is enacted against us, we should defend ourselves. But let me also finalize by saying this. Black people don't have a revenge fantasy. We don't have a revenge fantasy. We don't want, we're not dreaming about revenge against white people. We just want you to leave us alone. That's all we want you to do. Let us live our life. You live your life. Cool. We're fine with that. If separate but equal was separate and equal, we would have been fine with that. But it wasn't. And we just want you to leave us alone. So we don't have a revenge fantasy. I submit to you that white people have a revenge nightmare. They have a nightmare believing that what they did to us is going to be done to them. And that's why they're doing some of the things they're doing. They really believe that. But we don't dream about waking up in the morning and we got to get Whitey back. That's not what we're thinking. The Black Panther Party for Self-Defense, they just wanted to feed their communities. They just wanted to make sure their communities were well, were educated, had good homes, had health care, were protected by law enforcement. They weren't against law enforcement. They just wanted the same protections that white people receive from law enforcement, the same services to protect and serve. But what did protect and serve mean? It meant protecting and serving the interests of the white ruling elite. That's what it meant. And it means protect and serve us. And we understood that. So that's what I mean when I say it's going to take bloodshed in order for this to stop. And what I mean by bloodshed on behalf of white people who say they are allies, who say that they stand with us, who oppose all the tyranny that's been acted against us, to put themselves on the line and say, no, we have to honor what we say in the Constitution.
Let me bring the focus in a little bit. A couple of notes here about what's happening with local law enforcement cooperation with ICE. Minneapolis and St. Paul leaders are once again debating how local police should interact with federal immigration agents. City officials say limiting the cooperation with ICE builds trust in immigrant neighborhoods where residents may fear reporting crimes. But some critics argue that refusing ICE detainer requests could create public safety gaps. Police departments in both cities maintain that they do not ask about immigration status during routine stops, and they're working to reassure families that calling for help won't put them at risk. The discussion is expected to continue as both Minneapolis and St. Paul, both cities review their public safety policies for the year ahead. So what does it mean for our city? Our cities have prided themselves in being sanctuary cities, and for that, they have obviously drawn the ire of the administration. That is why we have the ICE invasion, Minnesota as a blue state #1, whose capitals have both declared they are immigrant friendly, that they are safe zones, and also whose governor was on the ticket against the incumbent, the present president. And all of that goes into, I think, the multi-pronged decisions to make an example out of Minnesota, staging what this administration may want to do in other cities, particularly blue cities around the country as we move towards the midterm, and staging what may be the precursor to some call for a need to suspend elections in November. That's the threat that I fear. What do you think, James Trice?
No, I agree 100%. I think the whole plan is to disrupt the upcoming elections and discredit the upcoming elections and to halt them, because this individual wants to stay in power. This regime wants to continue to exist. I submit to you that we don't have a presidency. I think we have a regime. And this regime wants to continue to exist. And so this is to to upset this, is to stop it, to halt the elections. I would say to you is that we continue to come out. I would say that we resist this oppression. We resist the temptation to sit at home and say, forget it, they're going to do what they want to do. I think we do not capitulate, do not back down, do not fear. We will not live in fear. What we will do is we will be resolved in our stance to oppose the forces of tyranny that are trying to dismantle us and destroy us. And I would say that we should stand strong, stand together, stand united, black, white, whoever stands with us in order to make this happen. But I do agree that with this this regime is trying to do is stay in power, stay in force. It's their whole efforts, and I think that's what they're trying to do. And they're just trying Minnesota out as a test case, I believe, and they're going to try to do this in all of the blue states as well.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So right now, both Minneapolis and St. Paul are reviewing policies that would designate certain public buildings, like libraries and shelters and recreation centers, as quote unquote safe zones for immigrant residents. So the idea is to limit ICE enforcement in spaces where families seek essential services. Staff training is also under discussion, including how to respond to federal agents' request access. Supporters say these protections reduce fear and keep public spaces accessible, but opponents argue that the cities must stay within legal boundaries. The debate highlights the ongoing tensions around immigration and enforcement and community trust. I guess I watched some shows a couple of days ago where each time I watch, it just breaks my heart to see ICE agents roughhousing, I think you referred to it in your article, the old slave catcher.
Yes.
My imagination of how the slave patrols worked when these guys just roll up on somebody in mechanical Broncos versus horses that they
Right.
did a generation ago, but the outcome was the same, and that is the subjugation of a person, a target, and the removal of that person, the incarceration, the systematic, capture of a person, and in a public way that really creates fear in the community. So what can our cities do? What can we do to make, and how do we as Black people weigh in on that? Because part of the debate, James, has been some of our people saying, oh, that's not our fight. We're not.
Right.
I disagree with that, but what do you think?
Well, first of all, it is our fight. I think that we are the blueprint as Black people because of our history here in America of oppression, of slavery, and so forth, right? But it is our fight. Whenever we see other people of color, Black, other brown people being oppressed, I think it's our fight to stand in and help to support that because we are the blueprint. All other movements that have happened here in America against oppression have taken their cues from us, right? So I think that's one. And so it is our fight. I heard it before too, that people were saying that this is not our fight, but it is our fight. All of these fights that against oppression, I think we have to stand in and say we support the individuals who are being oppressed. Also, with regard to having safe zones or off-limit zones, I was talking to a person yesterday from Abbott Northwestern Hospital, and I asked him, I said, do you see ICE agents around? He said, oh yeah. He said they sit outside the emergency room. They park outside the emergency room waiting for people to come to the emergency room. Can you believe that? People coming to get services, coming to the emergency room for medical needs, and ICE agents are sitting outside the emergency room at Abbott Northwestern Hospital. It's what I heard. So there is a need for this, right? Because they have no regard for people's health, humanity, or anything like that. It's like, this regime, particularly the leader of this regime, is bereft of any humanity, and so I agree that there has to be some zones where we say you are off limits. I have seen businesses with signs up, and you've seen them as well, says ICE out. They will not allow ICE agents in there. I say we continue that. I say we continue to stand with these businesses to say, yeah, we support you in this, even if it means our discomfort. I love Mexican food, and I went by a few Mexican restaurants, and they were not open. And they were not open because they were afraid of ICE. They were afraid that their employees would get harassed, or that they would come and be raided by ICE agents. So they closed their doors. That should not be. So that's messing with their income, right? Their livelihood, what they depend on to feed their families and pay their bills. And so this is just way out of bounds, way out of control. But it's for a reason. And that
What a
reason
good
is to continue to
conversation. Brother Carl, jump in. And another friend of mine has joined us as well. But Carl, any comments, any feedback on any of the topics we've talked about so far? I know, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the things that Brother Trice was talking about is the exact reason why we do what we do with the 100 Black Men Twin Cities, right? I lean on you probably know Killer Mike, I guess, and a few years ago he his whole mantra, I guess, if you will, during that, I think it was before the election, was plot, plan, strategize, organize, and mobilize, right? And I think that is something that it's easy to say but hard to do. But I think a lot of times that's really what I lean on. I lean on the idea that we have to get together and do the things. We have to be together as a unit, not as a collective block, because we're not a monolith as Black folks and who we vote for. But the idea is we all absolutely should be registered to vote. I mean, and creating those opportunities and sort of raising awareness, shows like this or other opportunities to sort of educate yourself on what's going on. It may just change minds, right? I don't personally give Trump that much credit. I think that he is a master manipulator. I believe that he has found a way to mobilize grievances of folks. And in order to do that, he's sort of moving this whole agenda of his down the road. I don't think he's that smart. I think he's just a skilled spokesperson, and then he's able to sort of get the feeling of what folks are saying, even in the smallest communities, and that thing grows. So I don't give him that much credit. I think that really what I'm hoping to do is really just make sure that we are, as Black folks, Black men, rowing in the same direction as as we sit in Minnesota here, rowing the boat the right way. And I think that this is really the opportunity we have coming into the midterms that are coming up, to make sure that we do send that message, right? You send that message to the point where folks can't deny it. And whether it's led by folks like on this call, Black men, Black women, Black people, allies of, whatever that looks like, it all has to get done. So I think I absolutely agree. But I think that there's also just opportunities for us now more than ever to sort of lean into that idea of what it looks like to sort of, plot, plan, strategize, organize, mobilize.
Let me shout out my friend Kamal King, retired attorney out of Atlanta. I see you in the studio, Kamal, but I don't see you. Your image, your devices are not connected. Love to have you join the conversation if you can turn your devices on. But we're sort of at the end. I'm going to take a few extra minutes here because I want to throw something out, James and Carl. So today is February 11th. Let's say it's now February 11th, 2126. February 11th, 2126. And we won. We won. Everything we were seeking to get, we got. We won. And so how does the political and economic and cultural landscape look to you now, reflecting that we were victorious? James, futurism, what are you seeing?
Wow, that's a big one, man. I got to get some thought. What it looks like. Wow, what I can imagine, and I think that's an interesting question, because I think we need to imagine, and that takes some imagination. We won. What does it look like? I think a truly egalitarian government in the way we move about in the world, that everybody, black, white, Hispanic, whoever, has the same equal protections under the law, same rights, working together, and moving about the cabin freely, each one of us, to and supporting each other, right? I think that's what it looks like. Supporting each other, honoring one another, respecting each other, is looking like what the Constitution says. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal and are endowed by His Creator with certain inalienable rights. And to these, I mean, all of that is in there. So what they said in the Constitution, Declaration of Independence, and all of these things are manifested in 2126. Not that we're perfect, because there's no perfection, because we're human beings, but that we're all in somewhat agreement. Even though I like what you said, Carl, we're not a monolith, but we have the same principles, right? Because anytime you come to meetings and people take positions, and many times you look at the position they're taking, ask them instead of their position, what are your principles? What are your values? What do you value? And you'll be surprised how many times our values align. Every community wants safety. Every community wants protection. And so I think that is a reality. It sounds like it's a wonderful place to be. I won't be here when that happens, but it sounds like a wonderful place to be.
Well, you'll be there in as much as your children will be there representing you.
Yes,
that's the continuity there. Carl, what will it be like when you reflect on the fact that we won? What did it mean for you, your family, for our community, for humanity, for the planet, for the environment?
Right. I mean, the first thing that comes to mind is that we have gotten to the point where we've reclaimed the narrative that we currently live under, right? There's no more the first of, right? He's the first Black man to do whatever. It becomes somewhat colorblind, right? That's how I see it. I see it as an opportunity to sort of look at life in a way that the stories and the history books are accurate. So when I assume maybe great grandkids or whatever that is are reading their history books in school or on their tablets, technically, wherever they're studying this stuff at, they'll see that the true history of Black folks. That's how I see it. I think that there's also that opportunity again that generational wealth. What does that look like? Once people understand economics and understand what they can do and be in that 100 years, I think a lot of those things will come true. I think a lot of the science and technologies that we currently have will be led by folks that look like us. I think that there and others, right? But I think that that's really when I'm looking at how do you preserve our culture for that time frame. What does that look like? I believe that libraries are different, or what we call libraries will be different, and how we see and read and talk about Black folks will be different. And this time we're in right now will be just that. A part of the history book, and not a great part, let's be honest, but it'll be a part of the history book where we've said to ourselves, we got through it, we're stronger now, and we're in the place we need to be.
Can I share one last thing? I think,
sure. I got a follow-up question, but go ahead.
Yeah. I just want to say that we're planting the seeds by what we're doing now.
Yeah.
All the movements, all the struggle, everything that we've been doing, we're planting the seeds for that reality to be there. Mm-hmm. So let's be clear about that. And so what you're moving, how you're moving about, you're planting seeds in order for that to happen. And so you may not see the result of that seed or the harvest from that seed until 21, 26, but we're planting the seed right now. There was one person said, I think it was an old African proverb, if I'm not mistaken, they thought they buried us, but they didn't realize we were seeds.
So we grew. Right. And so that's sort of my last question, brothers, is so what did we do to get here? Today, again, is February 11th, 2126, and we won. The world has changed because we won. What did we do to get here? What happened in February of 2026? And maybe each of the broadly, decades or 20-year periods, the 5 20-year periods between then and now, that that were the signature events, the milepost in our arriving at what we describe now as, I think we're describing the world we have won as one of equality, of one of inclusion, of one that reflects balance in all of the elements and aspects of it between male and female, one that respects a different ability to relate to the natural resources of the planet, the minerals, the water, the air. We've arrived at a different understanding that puts all of those elements into a harmonic flow that is organic, natural, cosmic, and sustainable because of its nature. What things happen to get us here, James Trice?
Well, what got us here? All the struggle, all the fight, all the resistance, all the resilience of our people, of all of those who fought against oppression, got us to this point. We're no longer chattel slavery. There's some forms of slavery trying to happen. Again, the caveat with the 13th Amendment and allow for slavery, but we got here. So what do we do to get to 21, 26 is what we're doing now. Al McFarland, conversations with Al McFarland, Carl Benson and the 100 Black Men, James Trice and Public Policy Project, the struggle and fight of our brothers and sisters who are on the street protesting and resisting this raid, this ice storm. I call it the ice storm. This ice storm that's happened here in Minnesota. Not the weather ice storm, but the political ice storm that is happening. All the stuff we're doing now is what's going to get us there to 21, 26. That's what I believe.
I'm going to finish with you, Brother Carl.
My thoughts are, one would be we've probably embraced truth. We've come to the point where we've actually said to ourselves, truth matters, facts matter, and we've embraced that. I think there's got to be a certain point where we've obviously leaned into embracing the fact that if there's still a voting system, whatever that looks like, but we're participating in it. We are active participants in what our future looks like. That has to have happened. And then I wrote down that we learned. We learned not only about the history, but we learned that we're not going to repeat the bad things. Those things must have happened as well. And I think that those, educating yourself is one of those things that I think will ultimately get us to the next level. And then, 100 years from now, the hope is that we've all learned and learned that the truth is the right way. And we're engaged in the process to get us there.
Carl, the first step has to be an event coming up in February. Make the invitation.
Absolutely. I'd love for all Black men who are listening to this call or in the city of Minneapolis and St. Paul to come on out to the North Hennepin Community College. There is a registration. You can follow me on LinkedIn to get clicked into the registration. We're having a breakfast, a fellowship from 8 to 10 a.m. on Friday, February 27th at North Hennepin. Really an opportunity for us to meet one another, fellowship with one another, break bread with one another, and plan to do the things that we're talking about on this call.
And we shout out to Susan Budig. Thank you, Susan, for watching, to PumaNet. Thank you also to, I think, Brother Lloyd Lockett, Nura Siaser. Thank you all. Thank everybody listening across any platforms. And thanks to my guests, Carl Benson and James Trice. We'll see you tomorrow. We'll continue the conversation. I'm Al McFarland. Bye-bye.